Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel is Finding Value. We're going to do a daily technical analysis update in gold and silver. I like going over it every single day because it gives everyone the opportunities to see what's out there. If they want to partake in some, that's up to you. This is just financial education. I'm hoping that at some point you guys can start seeing the patterns yourself and then be able to do this stuff yourself. So here we go. We'll jump into it. This is just my financial opinion. It's not financial advice. So here we go. We've got the dollar and gold. What's good is the dollar's weakening. And usually when the dollar weakens, usually, not always, but usually when the dollar weakens, it provides a nice, good tailwind behind gold and the commodity complex. Gold was down a little bit today, and the dollar was down. But I'd like to see this dollar getting weaker, which provides a good tailwind behind our investments. So this is what the dollar looks like. This is what I'm paying attention to. And what I see here, and again, I'm looking at this from a valuation standpoint. We've got this ascending type wedge pattern in the short term that broke to the downside. And this could come back and kind of do a little back test somewhere up here or a retest and then drop. So don't be afraid if this dollar goes up some, because I'm going to see if it does this little, it almost always does this. It breaks out, does a retest, and then we got to watch to see if this thing drops. And that's what I'm looking for. Now the 10-year US Treasury yield is pinched up in this corner right here. It's right up on the corner. Which way is this thing going to break? We'll find out very soon. The conditions that are ideal for precious metals and commodities is if this 10-year goes up, which it should be going up. We have inflation, which is much higher than this yield. The yield's at 1.3, 1.4. I'm just going to kind of put it in there. Inflation's at 5 or 6%. That is a real negative rate. And what that does is it puts pressure on bonds. So people will sell bonds because they're losing money. They've got a negative real interest rate. And eventually what's going to happen is interest rates go up. But someone's in there buying them, maybe doing some yield curve control called the Federal Reserve, trying to hold this thing together, trying to hold stocks and bonds up, if they can. I am saying that right here, right now, we are going to see a breakdown or up, and I think it's going to be a break up by looking at the previous movement before it. Large up days, smaller down days, bullish engulfing. I'm looking for a break higher here. This is what the 10-year yield looks like on a long-term perspective. And we usually get what's called symmetry. So this is coming down in a pattern, kind of a downward channel. We created this pattern here. And if you were to cut this somewhere in the middle of 2020 in half, and you were to reverse it, what you see is symmetry. The yield fell this way. It created this pattern, and now it's creating that pattern in the opposite direction. It's symmetrical if you were to flip it over. And I think we're going to see this bonsai higher, more towards this rate, probably up there. But we'll see what happens. Here's gold, the price of gold itself. We got this downtrend line coming through. We've got this guy here. We're right there. We have a nice small little down day today. Everything's still intact for this to break to the upside. We've got nice big candlesticks with small down days. That's exactly, I think we're going to break big. Tomorrow, the day after, we'll see what happens, especially if the dollar remains weak. Or we've got another small down day tomorrow. We'll see where this goes. This looks very bullish to me, looking at August 9th and on for a break higher. Gold on a long-term perspective, this is a weekly chart. We've got the trend line coming through. We got this big, I put the big trend line up top. I think we're ready to go. We got the nice good wick at the bottom here. This looks fantastic to move higher. Let's hope that it manifests itself that way. Again, this is This is all statistical probabilities. I'm not saying 100% for sure that it's going higher. What I'm saying is statistically and what I've seen in history, in the very short term here, it looks like we could potentially move higher and then test this top portion, the top trend line. Silver's right there at the trend line too, and you could see it getting a little bit more buying pressure today. We're right there ready to try to break. It looks good. Bullish engulfing pattern here. That's where the opening and closing price of this big white candlestick engulfs the entire body of the one before it. And it's looking good to pop higher here. That's what I'm looking for. That's what the statistics is telling me and what my experience is telling me. Silver, we have this pattern that scrunched up. It kind of broke out, and then it got hammered here and headed lower. This doesn't look as good on the weekly chart because we have this little kind of guy here. I'd like to see the buyer step in and push it higher. This is almost a bullish engulfing. It's tough to tell right here. So let's see if we go. We might have a little down day right next to this black candlestick, but this is still forming, so it's tough to say. Looking at the daily, it looks much better, and I think we might head higher. Platinum looks good. Downtrend, it broke up, back tested or retested, and let's see this thing go. I'd like to see what tomorrow brings us. Big long-term perspective, downtrend line, we broke that. It's kind of pulling on back. That's really normal. I'm ready to see a big move higher. I'd like to see it over the next couple of years, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Looking at GDX on the daily, have like almost a bearish piercing. If we were to put a trend line in here, which I forgot to do, I mean, we're trying. We're right there. Let's see what happens tomorrow. GDX on a long-term weekly basis looks pretty good. We are in the uptrend line. We're coming back. We're tagging it right now. We're just above it. And I think we're going to hopefully bounce off this. But let's see what the price action tells us. SILJ, again, we've got this. It's just kind of moving sideways here. We do have a lot of this lead-in looks very nice. Big up day, 2 small down days, big up days, small kind of sideways movement. Usually it likes to launch from here. And if you put in a trend line, if you just kind of look at the trend line here, we've broken it. So is this going to come back and retest, or are we just going to go? I think it looks good. And that's why I said I think it's go time for some of these companies. Looking at SILJ from a long-term perspective, it looks pretty busy here. We've got kind of this, the chart's supposed to be up here, but this is covering it all. We come on down, and we're right at the support line here. You come across, we're at another support line here, and we've got another support line here. This is another reason why I thought some of these silver companies might be a good spot to be buying, because we got a whole bunch of support all underneath it. And the silver price looks good. We'll see what happens. Endeavor Silver, on a daily basis, we do have a little cross here. Sometimes you get a small little down day tomorrow, or maybe we'll just blow right through it. Let's see what happens. This looks good. We broke the downtrend here. I'll throw that in. And you guys can see how I'm creating these charts here. We broke that, and we did it on a big up day, buying pressure day. So I think we're good, but it could come back and tag this one last time. It's called a retest. I wouldn't be afraid. I'd be confident and look to see if the down days are controlled. Small little down days coming down, not like a huge bearish engulfing pattern. Franco-Nevada still trying to break through its little resistance line here. It doesn't look too bad. Wheaton Precious Metals, again, we're trying to get through this sticky portion all through here. And those are 2 royalty companies. You guys like royalty companies. Now, Yamana Gold, this doesn't look too good here, but could be a false signal. This is a bearish engulfing. Usually that ends up lower. We had this sell-off too. So this one doesn't look as good as some of the other charts. Newmont doesn't look too bad. Kind of a large up day here. We have a big down day here. It's bad. It's duking it out down here. This lead-in has a lot of momentum. We've got to break that momentum to the downside. And we're right where the trend line is, if you were to look. We're right there. Let's see if it's going to break. Barrett Gold does not have a good pattern here. It's a bearish engulfing, but sometimes when you get down here, I mean, we'll see. This is lining up to go lower. So I'm showing you guys ones that I found that are bearish. Hecla Mining, again, the lead-in's good, and we're still coming on up. We broke this this trend line going down, so it looks good. Sandstorm Gold, it's still fighting down here. It's a royalty company. A lot of momentum coming down. Let's see if it holds. And then my last one is Teuton Resources. This is another royalty company, a very small royalty company. Has a lot of volatility and can move a lot if we get it right. It can also move a lot in the wrong direction. But this looks very good. We're kind of coiling up here. Higher lows all coming through. We've got 2 small down days. That's pretty muted. Usually that results in a launch higher, usually. And I do own a lot of Teuton Resources, just as a disclosure. So that's what I have for gold and silver. Overall, I think gold and silver and platinum look good. The physical prices, the contracts. It looks like that wants to go higher. Some of the companies look good. Some of the companies are putting in bearish engulfings. So mixed bag. On a long-term perspective, GDX, SILJ, a lot of the companies are coming up on support right underneath them. So that means that we've got support underneath. It should hold, right? Let's find out if it holds. Over the next week, we're going to find out what these things do. You could see some massive moves. So be prepared. If the dollar gets weak and the 10-year goes up, we could see a massive launch higher. I've positioned myself just in case we see that massive launch higher. If it fails to launch, we could see some downward pressure. We're right at that decision point. So let's see what happens. Fingers crossed. The market conditions are behind us in real estate. So I am hoping and thinking that it's going to break higher. That's my preconceived notion at this time because of valuations and because of market conditions. If you guys like this analysis, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And thank you for listening. This is Finding Value.